Hello and a warm welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Lucia, and together with my colleague Bob, we're very excited to presenting our 11th webinar since we started in summer 2020. As you can see, we're back in our virtual studio, built and broadcasted by AB Sounds in Opweg. And today we will be talking marketing. But allow us to first briefly introduce ourselves so you know whom you're listening to. Bob and I are partners at Business Markers, and Business Markers is what we call an atypical consultancy company, because all our partners acquired nearly 20 years of experience in real business operations. Bob and I, we worked in functional and leading marketing roles at some of the most renowned companies, both in B2B and B2C, say Unilever, Coca-Cola, GDA, or Colgate-Palmolive. And ever since joining Business Markers, we've supported companies in growing their business, thanks to brand positioning, marketing strategy, and customer experience. Today, our webinar will mostly inspire you if you're a, let's say, mid-size SME with no or limited marketing team. Maybe you already are working with a creative agency or a digital agency, but they're not really helping you with your marketing strategy. In that case, listen very carefully. Now, if you would have questions during our presentation, then don't hesitate to use the Ask New Question button. Type your question and we will answer them at the end of our presentation.
Thank you, Lucia. Now, what is marketing and why would I need it? In many companies, marketing departments kind of turn into a catch-all. They do a lot of tasks that in most cases are not related in any way to each other. Often a task would arrive at a company and then questions would arise like, is it for sales? No. Is it for logistics? No. Is it for finance? No. Well, then it must be marketing, right? Recognizable? The thing is that a company without a marketing department, or at least a department in charge of marketing, is inconceivable. And still that isn't valued enough by many business leaders. And there's three reasons for that. A first reason is lack of credibility. We've all heard expressions like, marketing is a waste of money, marketing is all luck, so why would we spend money on it? Marketing has no clue about what's really happening on the market. And 73% of CEOs says that marketers lack business credibility and the ability to create sufficient growth for the company. 80% simply even doesn't trust marketeers at all, whereas 91% of them do trust their CFO or CIO. Ouch, right? And people thinking this way often have a different, rather classical view on what marketing is. They would often think it's only about product design and communication and advertising. And what happens therefore is that, especially in mid-sized companies, it's often the owner or the managing director that rather prefers to do everything, him or herself. It's the CEO that would be the chief marketeer. Right? But there is a big responsibility as well for the marketeers themselves, because marketeers are often commercially disconnected. And it's up to them as well to bridge more with the other departments. Marketeers often run behind the latest sexy technology or the next big thing, and yet it's not the new thing that should concern them, it's what matters to the customer. And thirdly, marketing is sometimes too arrogantly about imagination or innovation for the sake of creativity and novelty, whereas it should avoid short-termism and promotionally led thinking in favor of long-term value creation for a company. Right? Lucia.
Yeah, so what is then the definition of marketing? Well, classically, marketing is defined as all activities a company undertakes to promote the buying or selling of products or services, including market research and advertising. Today, marketing is a holistic, adaptive methodology that connects brands with real customers and drives business results by blending strategy, analysis, creativity, technology, and collaboration. So, marketing is driving business results. And to drive business results, you need to be in the driving seat. And that's exactly where we think marketing as a discipline should be in each organization. Marketing is not just a tactical team creating products, nice advertising, and some communication. No, marketing is about understanding your customer, putting him or her central in your operations. It's about creating value for them. It's about driving your company results. So, since it's an essential part of your business strategy, you need to organize it strategically. And we will present this marketing strategy to you as a puzzle in which everything comes together. Who you are, what you do, why you do it, for whom you do it, how you do it, where you do it. It's a winning marketing plan. It's a puzzle with 12 pieces. And excellence is in marketing is an end-to-end piece. How do you start laying a puzzle? Right. You start with laying the cornerstones first. Likewise, in a marketing plan, the 4 corners are analysis, involvement, strategy, and governance. Without that frame, the pieces of the puzzle would fall apart. And then to give content to your marketing excellence framework, we add 3 major marketing roles: recruitment, value creation, and retention. And these 3 roles will be worked out in our puzzle throughout the 8 P's of marketing. I guess most of you know the 4 P's: product, price, place, promotion. But over time, 4 new P's have been added. You'll hear more about it in our webinar.
Let's start with the first P. Or rather, let's start with the cornerstones, like Lucia said, right? And the first cornerstone is about involvement. David Packard, the co-founder of Hewlett & Packard, once nailed it very well. He said that marketing is too important to be left to the marketing department. Hey, but didn't Lucia just said that marketing should be in the driving seat? Yeah, indeed, marketing should be in the driving seat. But the difference is that marketing as a discipline should be driving your business. But please don't look at it as being only the marketing team's job. At its core, marketing is a strategic discipline that goes beyond the very foundation of just a team and business driving results. Right? Let me illustrate this with an example of a customer of ours, Kinepolis. Let's imagine a theater. One could easily picture the pride of the movie scheduling department when theaters are full. Then they would say something like, yeah, planning, programming, we did a great job here. Whereas when a theater would be empty, they might be looking at marketing and saying, hey, marketing dropped the ball. They didn't do their job very well. But on the other way, or seen it from the other side, marketing would look at the same 2 theaters and they would say, hey, for the full theater, that advertising campaign we did was a huge success. Whereas for the empty theater, they would say, yeah, but even with the best campaign in the world, we would never have gotten people into that theater. Right? Now you see, success has many fathers and failure is an orphan. And still, it doesn't matter where things might have gone wrong, as long as you do understand where it has gone wrong. A company is a chain of members pursuing the same goals. The goals to fulfill the company's mission and to maximize profits. And a chain is as weak as its weakest link. It doesn't matter that the commercial or production department are doing an impeccable job. If the marketing department fails, then the entire department, then the entire company will fail as well. Right? All right. Involvement. Let's move on to the second corner, analysis. The second corner is an absolutely crucial one. It is about looking for data. It's about understanding what's happening in the mind of the customers, about what's happening in the market, and how we are performing today. And your analysis phase should be centered around 3 components: customer, company, and competition. And please make sure to start with the customer. Because if you would analyze the company first, then you're looking inside out. Yeah? And what we want you is to look outside in. Understanding the customer's viewpoints is infinitely important in marketing. Sam Walton, founder and chief of Walmart, the world's #1 retailer, once said that there's only one boss, the customer. And he can fire everybody in the company from the chairman on down simply by spending his money elsewhere. Understanding, meeting, and catering the needs of every customer will lead to a competitive advantage and a higher perceived value. And listening to your customer needs is about creating insights. It's a beautiful word when you come to think of it. Because when you dissect it, it has two components. It has the component of sight, and sight is what you actually see a consumer do. For example, a consumer would buy a new watch, a new Tag Heuer watch, and that is what he would himself explain by a functional need. I needed a watch, I needed to be comfortable, I needed to be trustworthy, I need to be robust, right? But the in is what's actually happening inside the consumer's mind. That's the emotional need that you are fulfilling. And that emotional need has more to do with, I wanted to express a bit of standing, a bit of the success that I've got. I wanted to express my masculinity, for example, right? You got it, okay? It is about creating real insights into what problem or opportunity you're trying to solve. And therefore, listen to your customer needs. That you can do by research or by all kinds of surveys and voice of the customer programs that you might have internally already. But don't forget that there's also a great source of customer knowledge inside of your company within the teams. Your sales department, your customer departments, your complaints department that are getting into interaction with your customers every day. Or even on your social media where customers leave reviews for you. There is plenty of unexploited data within each company today. Use it. All right. Okay, after gaining insights on your customers, you need to monitor competition and find out what their core strengths are. Put yourself in their shoes and see what their business strategies are. What are their values? What are their objectives? What are the challenges they are facing? What are their marketing strategies? Remember that a SWOT analysis is always relative to competition. So you need to understand who is doing better than you on what aspects and where you are doing better than them. And if you work out who your competitors are, then please do it on different levels. Like let's take Chiquita here as an example. You might remember the Chiquita smoothies. Yeah? They had direct competitors like Innocent or like for example, at Albert Heijn, they had their private label, but they were indirect competitors as well. Some are very close substitutes like fresh fruit that you could buy already pre-packed for smoothies. But other alternatives might be even fruits or might even be cereal bars because they would take a share of stomach as well. So think about direct competition, think about indirect competition, but also think about future competition. Future competition are businesses that aren't in the marketplace yet, but that could enter at any time. Take the example of Canon and Nikon, for example. They would never have thought that telephones would become a direct competitor until smartphones started including high-pixel cameras to their devices in 2007. And as a consequence, digital camera sales dropped by 87% worldwide in between 2010 and 2020. The third element to your analysis is your internal analysis. And please do that on all domains, and we're not going to go into too much detail here, but look at HR and quality and skills and number of people you've got. Look at physical and material resources, machines, land. Look at your financials, your EBIT, your margins, your cash positioning. Look at your intellectual property that you might have, your IT infrastructure, at your brand strength as well, of course. And these internal data, together with the competitive and market analysis that you did before, will give you a very decent SWOT, right? Bringing that together will tell you where you are excelling, where you're doing okay, where your current deficits are, where your gaps lie versus competition. It will tell you where there is potential to grow and how resources can be assigned efficiently. One last thing we want to highlight on this one is many of you might be doing business across borders, might be exporting, right? Then please make sure to also properly analyze the market and regulations and rules of the game in your target markets. including, for example, language and cultural differences. For that, we always recommend to do a DEPEST analysis. Demographics, economics, politicals, ecologicals, societal, and technology trends. And there's many cases of companies that have failed on this in the past, and one of the lesser known examples that we like very well is this one of P&G's Pampers. When they wanted to launch in Japan in the 1970s, they initially launched their American packaging into the Japanese market with a stork carrying a baby. But this left Japanese consumers very puzzled, because apparently in Japan, children aren't delivered by a stork, children are delivered in a peach. So take care as well about looking at market differences there might be. Okay. Let's move on to the third corner. After involvement and analysis, we're now into strategy. Right? This is my favorite saying, and people who know me probably have seen this before. It is for those who do not know which port they are steering for, no wind will be favorable. Marketing can be seen as the wind that moves your company forward. But it's your strategy that is your compass and that will determine where you are sailing to. So you should cascade your strategy within the organization, starting from the overall company strategy, going down to your marketing strategy, and then descending to your functional strategy, like, for example, branding and marketing, research and pricing, etc. And your company strategy and your marketing strategy are two different plans, both essential to the success of your business. And many business leaders aren't sure about the difference between a company strategy and a marketing strategy. Sadly enough, 50% of organizations do not even have a defined marketing strategy. And still, there's many typical elements in a marketing strategy that is different than the overall company strategy. Things like target market, positioning, messaging, marketing goals. And on the next level, your marketing plan even goes further and gets translated from strategy into tactics, right? Your marketing actions. Because you do need both. You need that strategy and that tactics. Strategy and tactics together enable organizations to think ahead while planning in the now. Two key pillars that will determine how the company operates, makes decisions, and how its future looks like.
Okay, we still have the fourth cornerstone left, governance. But this one we'll treat at the end of this webinar. Let's first explain the inside, the body of our marketing plan. Because once a company knows its environment and has a marketing strategy, it should now decide on the design of the marketing mix. The marketing mix is seen as a set of controllable variables summarized in the 8 Ps. We're first gonna start with the piece you basically need to recruit your customers. As said before, recruitment is one of the crucial marketing roles. Recruitment is basically supported by the following Ps: proposition, product, place, and promo. And I would like to start with proposition. What do we mean with proposition? Well, it is your proposal to the customer. It is presenting yourself. It is your identity, who you are. And to be able to present yourself, you need to answer 3 crucial questions. The first question is, why do you do what you do? What is the mission of your brand? What is the dream you want to accomplish? The second question is what? What do you offer? What is the promise you make to your customer? And the third question is how? How do you deliver it? What are your values? It is a well-known fact that strong brands distinguish themselves primarily by their recognizable brand personality. It is authentic, relevant, cohesive, and, above all, distinctive. Let's take this example that we developed together with TVH, a beautiful Flemish company selling parts and accessories for equipment fleets in different markets. The answer to their why is because we keep you going and growing. And this is true for their business partners because they deliver the parts and the services in order to minimize downtime and maximize the lifespan of their fleet. But it's also true for their employees because they want to develop the employees to the best of their capabilities and invest in their personal growth and future. What is TVH offering? Well, they're delivering all products and services to keep equipment running smoothly. And how do they do it? They developed 5 values. It's pursue excellence, act with joy, remain open-minded, take initiative, and show courage. And those values are very important to differentiate themselves from competition. Because competition can maybe copy what you do, but never how you do it and who you are. The next piece of the puzzle we would like to highlight is products. Obviously, with this P, we mean that you must decide what you're going to offer. It is your assortment of products, or it is the list of services that you offer to the market. But the P is more than just literally the products or services. What we will build in this piece of the puzzle is the brand. And that means the personification of your products or services, or even your entire company. And like a person, it has a name, it has a personality, it has a reputation. And like a person, you can like it or even love a brand. You maybe see it as a friend, as someone very reliable. And just as you like to be around some people and maybe not others, there are brands that you like and others that you don't like. People have characters, and so have brands. So a brand is more than a product. And let's take this example of Brussels Airlines. You could say that literally Brussels Airlines offers flights from Brussels to a certain destination and then back home again. So the simple service they offer is transporting your body from A to B. However, you all know that there's much more to this experience. It starts with you dreaming of your destination and then finding the best date and then book it online at a good price. And then the day of your departure is filled with excitement. And hopefully you will be welcomed by the crew. And you can take a seat in a nicely cleaned airplane. And you're served some very good food. So Brussels Airlines is not just selling you transport. What they do is market the whole experience. Their brand is about the complete traveling experience. Let me take another example. It's the case of cigarettes to prove how it works. Let's say that about 20 years ago, Marlboro was about freedom and adventure with the cowboy, and smoking Marlboro was being cool and independent. We had a Marlboro logo design that was the symbol of, let's say, individualism and masculinity. A very clever logo design that works very well and that is immediately recognizable, also on packaging. But today, all the expressions of identity of the product are taken away. Look at the actual cigarette shelf. They all look the same. When zooming in at two packagings, well, in the middle you can see the actual packaging of Winfield and Marlboro, and then to the left and right you can see the older versions. Well, it is clear that on the packaging of cigarettes today, there's no opportunity anymore to express emotions or to make a connection with potential consumers. And not surprisingly, smoking incidents dropped with 1/3. In this case, of course, it was deliberate and initiated by law. But it proves the power of communication. Now, the P of product, we said, is about the experience you offer. It's about logo and packaging you use. In fact, it's about the whole brand identity. And TVH nailed their identity in a 170-page brand book filled with guidelines on how they want to express themselves. It shows how their brand looks, how it feels, how it speaks, and how it moves. So the P of product is about the complete brand and how it expresses its personality and builds connection with the customers. The next piece of the puzzle I would like to highlight is place. In fact, this englobes your route to market. How do you manage to bring your product or your service from your offices or your factory to the customers? And to highlight all the different options you could have, I would like to tell a little story of a chocolate brand that contacted us for some help. They were able to produce the nicest pralines, but they did not really know how to bring them to market. And indeed, there are a lot of options. They could go for their own shops, branded, or they could sell through existing retailer brands. They could go for online only and develop the perfect web shop, or maybe a mix of both. They could choose to go direct to consumers or work with in-betweens. And then how would they need to organize their sales and logistics? That is very important for chocolate, because if you don't organize this professionally, your pralines might look like this. Now, this whole go-to-market case is a very rich and broad subject, so we will explore that in one of our next webinars. Bob, you wanted to explain promo.
Yeah. Thank you, Lucia. All right, let's go on to the next one. The P of promotion. Now, promotion, or differently said, communication, includes all activities that involve communicating with the customers about your products and services and its benefits and features, right? It includes raising awareness through different mediums, and it includes as well to create and foster brand loyalty, for example, right? Communication has different roles to play in the marketing mix, depending on the overall marketing strategy objectives and the 7 other elements in the mix. And remember that none of the elements in your mix, none of the 8 Ps stand alone. They all work together. There's 3 elements we want to highlight on communication. There's planning, there's content, and there's consistency. Let's start with that first one, planning. How to plan your communication and media choice? Well, that depends far most on where you are in your marketing funnel. The marketing funnel is something that symbolizes the journey that your customer is taking with you in contact with your brand. The most well-known marketing funnel model is the AIDA model, the attention, interest, desire, and action model. Right? At Business Markets, we worked it out a little bit more. We've worked the funnel out and we flipped it again at the bottom, which makes it more like a sandglass model, which we call our marketing model. For an extensive explanation on this one, I happily invite you to go to our website and to review the webinar that was given by our colleagues Serge and Christophe on this. Right? What is important to remember here is that depending on where you are in that journey and where you want to reach them, your communication efforts and focus will be different. Example given, you already have a good awareness, imagine, but you need to convince prospects to buy, and then you're more in the interest phase, and to get them from interest to trust, then you need to convert your prospects. In converting prospects, then there's no use anymore in investing in SEO or in big advertising campaigns. No, then you should rather be in one-to-one marketing and communication, right? So depending on where you are in the model and where you are in the funnel, you need to communicate differently, and that's the importance of planning, right? The second element on communication is about content. According to marketing guru Seth Godin, content marketing is the only marketing left. What he means by that is that the relevance and uniqueness of content is crucial to building the relationship with with your customers and be relevant to them. And by the way, that's not only for complicated or technical products. The champion of content creation is a soft drink. Red Bull is probably the best example of content marketing, right? In the meantime, they even created a media house where there's over 100 people working already there. They make more money with selling their content than with selling their cans, right? And their project that you see here on the slide, the Red Bull Stratos, where in 2012 Felix Baumgartner made the highest jump ever, parachute jump ever, got viewed by over 12 million people on the Red Bull website. The power of content. Okay. Content marketing isn't new. It's been around forever. Think of the Bible, think of Christian art, right? It's user-generated content avant la lettre, right? The art which has been made to spread the word of God. Now there's 4 C's to creating good content. There's context. You need the consumer at the right moment, through the right channel, with the right message. And then there's creativity. Be unique and bring different kind of context in different formats. Make sure it is all about your customer and the information that he needs at the different moments in the journey. And then please make sure that you've got consistency in your communication. It's not about reinventing yourself all the time. It is about building a brand, and that is something you don't do overnight, right? And don't just be consistent on your content, but please be consistent as well in your execution. Communication, place, people, all 8 P's have to be in line. If not, you would be advertising for a brand called Taifin with people that might not necessarily suit the brand. Right? Okay. Let's move from communication, promotion, to the next P, the P of price. Or what we rather prefer, value. It is about value creation. Value is much more consumer-centric than price is. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And price will only ever be an issue in the absence of value. If I would tell you, little story, if I would tell you we were going to eat lobster together, then what kind of restaurant would you have in mind? Would you rather think of the restaurant on the left side, or would you rather think of the restaurant on the right side? Most probably, you would associate lobster to the restaurant on the right side, correct? Well, the funny thing is that, whereas today it goes without question that lobster means luxury and high quality and value, that it wasn't always the case. In the 17th century, lobster was fed to prisoners and servants. And even 200 years later, lobster was still less expensive than, for example, potatoes. It wasn't until beginning of the 20th century, with overfishing in the 1920s, which increased prices, and with new regulations in the 1940s, that lobster became more expensive and thus attractive as well to the upper class. It is all about perceived value. And perceived value is the relation between benefits and costs. Between benefits from using your product and the costs from acquiring it. Benefits might include things like image, like technical product feasibilities, trust in the brand, delivery times, whereas costs, for example, might include first and foremost the price itself, but also the easiness to find, administration, installation costs, and things like that. And the bigger the gap between perceived benefits and perceived costs are, the higher perceived value will be. Another way of increasing value is by innovation. And a short story on this is a nice one here is on coffee. Until the beginning of the Nillies, we all drank regular filter coffee. And the average price of a cup of coffee was 7 cents at that time. And then Senseo and Philips, Douwe Egberts and Philips together launched Senseo in 2002. And the price of a coffee went up to 12 cents. Already an increase of 50%. And then George came. George came with Nespresso. And all of a sudden you paid 45 cents for your cup of coffee. The same cup of coffee, the same quality of coffee. Yeah? And the price increased times 6 in a few years' time, right? Now, last element on value is this one. Marketing used to be only responsible about their only part within the P&L, the A&P budget, the advertising and promotion budget, right? But that's not the case anymore. Marketing today has a responsibility all through the P&L, from the top till the bottom. From revenue, where they are not only responsible for getting the volume in, but also the price. And by the way, volume already in itself is a formula of the number of customers you get in, the number of buying acts they've got, and the basket size that they are buying. But marketing has a responsibility in the savings of cost of goods, in increasing productivity, in even together with sales, negotiating commercial conditions, next to their advertising and promotion spend. Let's go to the last part of our puzzle, where we will look at the three P's that mainly work on retention. Lucia.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Bob. Retention. We know that recruiting new customers can cost as much as 5 times more than retaining current customers. So then you could wonder what the use is of all your recruitment investments in marketing to get new customers in through the front door when you leave the back door wide open. Most companies don't even have a clue on how many customers they lose every year. Well, I can tell you it's up to 30%. So hence the importance of a good retention management. Now, within retention, we also have 3 P's, and let's start with the first one, which is the P of people. It is your co-workers, and they are important in every business, and especially in the service industry. We've basically already explained this through the presentation earlier. It's about the human actors who play part in the journey of your customer. Remember the example of Brussels Airlines, and here you also see Coolblue. So all of your employees are part of your brand. Studies show that the image customers have about your brand is more than 50% made up by the behavior of your people. So you have to nurture that, and you have to make sure that everyone in your company knows his or her role and knows what is expected from him or her. Let me tell you a little story that shows this very well. You probably know the Ritz-Carlton hotels. They are known for their brilliant customer service. And what is special is that all of their staff have the authority to spend up to 2,000 euros to resolve a customer's problem without having to refer to a manager. Well, what happened at a certain day in the Ritz-Carlton of Florida was that a family who spent a holiday there returned home, but they forgot Joshi, the best friend of their son. It didn't return with them. So they called the hotel, and in the hotel they searched for it, and they found it. And a few days later, the family got it delivered back home in a nice package with some goodies and a funny photo album of Joshi's extended stay at the hotel. This is a great example of bringing customer delight by your people, by their reactions and their initiatives. The next P is physical evidence. And whatever your business you're in, your physical evidence is in the first place your premises. A good example here are the offices of Structurabis. That is one of our customers. Structurabis provides real estate solutions in B2B. They facilitate the rental or the sale of offices, shops, and industrial properties. So their own office is like their business card. It shows their knowledge. It shows their expertise. It shows that they're ambitious and proactive. And when you go inside, you feel that they're very people and team driven. You can see and feel that they, as local, they know the area. Another example of physical evidence could be the event that we as business markers have organized in 2019 at Technipolis, long before Corona. It could also be our cut-out business cards. Or it is what we're doing today. We're sharing our knowledge in this webinar and thus providing you with a quality flavor of the services that we offer. Last great example here is Björn. He's a professional painter and he painted his full house in the Belgian colors during the last World Cup. He got a nice coverage in the national newspapers with it. It's great publicity, but it's also very relevant and contextual example of physical evidence. Let's go to the last P. It's about process.
Thank you, Lucia. All right. Our last P, process. Process is about the provision of your products and services to the customer. It is about the procedures, the mechanisms, and the flow behind the scenes, as well as in front of the scenes. What is visible to your customer? How do you make sure you're easy to find? How do you make sure they get to you, right? Understanding the steps of the customer journey is an important one in this. We're not going to talk about customer journeys, what we already did in previous webinars here, but it's important to understand those steps. From making, for example, when buying a car, inquiries online, requesting information, until comparing cars one to each other on a comparison website before they would enter your stores, let's say, right? Process is all about user experience, customer experience. And an example of how one could do this very well is at the headquarters of our customer Randstad group. One of the attendees in a meeting sits down at the head of the table on this chair that you see here on the picture. And he takes on the role of the customer. And the only task this person gets is to challenge what they see or hear through the eyes of our customers. And by the way, when you think about customers, don't only think about current customers, think as well about your customers of the past and your customers of the future. Oh, yeah. To finalize our puzzle, Lucia said before that we would come back on governance. Well, this is the moment. Governance is about a few elements. It is, first of all, about measuring. Plan, do, check, act. The check part. Marketing activities are often a huge investment. An investment of time, money, and effort within your company. And like every investment, it requires measuring. Measure the actions in order to check whether they meet their intended objectives, in order to compare a certain action with others, and to be able to answer questions. Questions like, where should I invest in? How should I adapt myself? And for that, in marketing, KPI dashboarding, of course, like in other departments, is an important one, with typical marketing KPIs that could be the following. Sales revenue, market share penetration, voice of the customer, measures like net promoter scores or satisfaction scores or effort scores, and others, right? Okay. And like any other division, marketing department has a responsibility as well to plan its budget for next year's. And for that, we recommend to do a ROMI. A ROMI measures the return on your consumer, trade, and communication investments by a simple formula. A formula that is calculated by offsetting all costs related to the marketing activities versus the incremental margin that it delivered during the time span of the promotion. Right? It gives you an idea of how effective your investments and your marketing efforts are. Right? Okay. That's about measuring. Another aspect of governance is about the tools you use. Right? Invest in tools like product information management systems or marketing automation tools, or at least a very decent CRM database. For marketeers, HubSpot and Salesforce or many others, there's enough good examples or tools on the market. Tools that capture, organize your data and allow you to get the most out of it. A good CRM program in combination with right processes will enable to personalize your approach, like Colruyt does very well, to improve your customer experience and hence deliver business growth. Right?
So, we're nearly at the end of this webinar. We went through the 4 cornerstones and the 8 P's of the Marketing Excellence Framework. Now, how can we help you? You, your team, your organization? Well, You grow your business by step changing your marketing. Basically, you could say there are 3 levels. There's the base, which we call structure. Then the next level is elevate. And at the highest level, your champion. When combining this with the 4 cornerstones of our puzzle and the 3 marketing rules, you can see that there will be action points in every crossing where we can help you with. For example, here in the analysis phase, you can read how it is filled in with different action points. So we can support you in step changing your marketing in each of these steps. Now, we've presented a lot of content today, so you might have some questions and we would be happy to answer them as from now on. For those leaving us, we would like to thank